And Katie, Trump really kind of playing both sides this week. That turn upset a lot of people, a lot of his supporters in the pro-life crowd. I think we have a clip of Eric Erickson, and this was his response. Let's play that.
I have never, and I will never vote for a candidate who supports abortion rights. Donald Trump came very close to sounding like he does yesterday. And if he loses in November, yesterday, August 29th, in the year of our Lord 2024, will be the day he lost if he doesn't do some damage control pretty quickly.
Katie, that's a big statement. Do you agree with that assessment? Is the former president at risk of losing some of his core voters, or do you think he was able to clean this up?
Well, it's good to be with you. You know, Eric is from my home state of Georgia and a good friend. And I'll tell you that the consensus among the pro-life movement in D.C. we've seen emerge is 15 weeks. By 15 weeks, 94% of abortions are performed before 15 weeks, and 73% of Americans agree with that policy. You know, the full clip that wasn't played there of President Trump is when he was asked how was he going to vote specifically on this amendment. He mentioned how radical it is. And I'll tell you, the policies that are being pushed by the Harris campaign, the Democratic Party, their position on abortion is far out of step with the mainstream. Only 10% of Americans agree with the idea that abortion should be available up to the 9th month. And so, they may think in the Democratic Party that this is a winning issue for them because they're getting beat on every other issue. If this is a campaign about the economy, about inflation, about immigration, about foreign policy, Vice President Harris is going to lose. The only potential path here for her is she needs to make it about abortion. But when the actual position of the Democratic Party on abortion becomes apparent to the voters, they are going to reject it because it is far outside of the mainstream.
And Katie, he does.
Listen, let me respond to that. Only 1% of abortions happen after the 21st week. This idea that Donald Trump said that there's executions going on in some states, it's patently false. And believe it or not, I also am a friend of Eric Erickson, and he is a very consistent, principled, conservative voter. But I would say to my friend Eric, you've already voted. If you voted for Trump, you've already voted for a pro-choice candidate, because it wasn't too many years ago that in public, Donald Trump was calling himself very pro-choice. Then he said he was pro-life. Then he said he wanted that there should be some form of punishment for women. And then he appointed the 3 judges and has taken credit, has bragged about it, has expressed pride of that decision, and then tried to back away from it. Well, he can't. He is pregnant with Dobbs, and he is pregnant with all of the cruel consequences that have happened as a result of Dobbs.
Go ahead, Katie.
But you know what, Anna, when you look at the different laws in these different states, you were talking earlier about humanitarian. I want to ask you, what kind of a position is it when in this Minnesota, Governor Walz's home state, he signed into law legislation that removed the words medical care from the requirements in the Abortion Survivors Act. Now in the state of Minnesota, you are not required to provide medical care for a child that's born alive after a failed abortion. I'm sorry, it's letting a child sit on the table and not receive medical care. I don't consider that humanitarian. I don't know what world we would consider that humanitarian. So these are radical policies far outside the mainstream. You remember Governor Northam up in Virginia saying that if a child survives an abortion, the baby would be, quote, set aside while the doctor and the mother have a conversation. The only conversation we're having when there is a beating child sitting there, a heartbeat on the table, is how do we save this life? That's the only conversation we need to be having.
Listen, those are a handful of cases, and I do think that it is up to the mother and the doctor, and that a live child would be given care. But I would ask you, how humanitarian is it not to include rape and incest in those laws, like is happening in states like Texas? How humanitarian is it to make women have to leave their states, pay for care, figure out who their doctor is going to be in another state, because it takes them almost dying of sepsis in places like Texas in order to get care? Do you think that's humanitarian? Do you think that's a Christian value Do you think that's a family value when often these women are not going to be able to have more babies because their reproductive system is destroyed after having to go through such trauma? I mean, come on. Come on.
We're out of time. Katie, I'll give you a quick last word, but then unfortunately we've got to go.
No, I would just say that we have to value every single life, both the life of the mother and the life of the child that she is carrying. And I believe the Republican Party is the party of life. We want to give women protection. We want to make sure that they have the best possible future ahead. And the idea that putting them through a traumatic medical event because they're receiving bad advice long past the term of when the general consensus is a very bad idea. So respectfully, don't try to bring Christianity into this, Anna. We're going to support every mother, and we're going to support every heart.
And listen, you may never have had the conversation with a doctor where there's a mixed diagnosis. I have. Okay, so it's not about getting bad advice. It's that sometimes you don't know things until after 11 weeks, after 12 weeks, after 16 weeks. Things happen during a pregnancy, and I suggest you go read up on some of the horrible cases that we have heard about. Go read up on the woman from Florida whose baby, who was told in the second trimester that her baby did not have kidneys and was going to die, and had to give birth to that baby and hold it for 90 minutes as it gasped for breath in her arms and watch that baby die. And then go talk to me about
Anna
your Christian values.
And Katie, we've got to leave it there. I appreciate you both being here. Look, this is an issue that is going to be a big one going into the fall and for so many Americans, and we appreciate your debate there. We're going to leave it. I appreciate both of you. We'll be right back.